Welcome to the Deucecast Extra. We are the TV wing of the Deucecast Empire, here to celebrate all things on the small screen. And tonight we obviously have some Star Wars going on because we have Nick the 10th Jedi joining us from Podcast of the Wills. How
Good
you,
evening,
sir?
doing
So
fantastic.
if that doesn't give you a hint that we're going to be talking some visions, probably the title of the episode gave you that hint. We decided to break it up, though. I think with 9 episodes,
Thank you.
there's a lot
Yes,
going
we need
on.
to.
Yeah, there's a lot going on in each of those episodes, and they're very unique episodes, and it's cool just going to be able to talk about them.
And we'll talk about this more as we get into it. But honestly, like when you texted me that the other day, I was relieved because I watched another show last Thursday, and they tried to talk about all 9, went like 2 hours, and then still, like it just felt crowded.
Yeah.
But I had seen them all. Like I watched them all probably Wednesday when they came out. But now, doing the prep that I did to hang out with you guys tonight, I watched just those first 5 and then those featurettes that go with each one, the director featurettes.
Yeah.
And that,
and the
like, I have more of an
that was a thing.
appreciation of that first 5 than I did last week. Like,
yeah.
Ooh.
And and I watched.
featurettes.
I did.
They're in the extra section.
They're in the
I
extras,
watched
yeah.
the Japanese version first because I'm trying to be like pretentious Earl. So I watched the Japanese with the English
and I haven't
subtitles.
watched any
With the-
Japanese yet.
With the dub titles, Mikey. With the dub titles, that's not pretentious.
Look, I got more. I was actually way more into watching the Japanese because some of the English dubbing took me out of it a little bit.
Some
but
of it was a
that's
little weak.
just to be expected.
Little bit.
But we're also,
Dummy
of
too
course, here to talk about episode 7 of What If, which is what if Thor was an only child.
Which had nothing to do with the episode, but yeah.
Yeah, pretty much
right.
it
Yeah. Well, I mean, a
Sort
little
of,
bit.
yeah.
Karen Gillan was there as Nebula, Jamie Alexander as Lady Sif, because I think in her contract she has to be Lady Sif whenever Lady Sif is mentioned, or in anything. Seth
Except
Green,
for when they're going to kill her off in Ragnarok, and then she can't show up to set because she's shooting something else.
Exactly. They wanted to kill her off, but they couldn't. Then Seth Green was Howard the Duck. Rachel House did come back as Topaz. She was Topaz in the film in Ragnarok, so she came back. And then also randomly Clancy Brown as Surtur.
Surtur. Yep.
Yeah, he
Really?
yeah, he was there also. So
Awesome.
really the only actors that did not reprise their role, we had Alexandra Daniels as Captain Marvel, Jessette Eels as Frigga, David Shin as Hogan, and Fred Tacitor, he's a classic voice actor, as Volstagg and as Drax. And that was it. I mean, so really, gosh, we had like 14 actors.
Big.
Yeah, reprising their role. And this, if there's ever an episode that at least feels like a one-off, not really like tied to anything, until the very end, of course.
I was about to say.
Yeah, until the very end. But this was
Big
one
ending.
of them for most of the episode where it just was a big party.
Yeah, it was a
and
very silly episode. It was getting back to
and
kind
since
of the
you've got
sillier stuff.
Party Garrison, what was some of your favorite stuff in that episode?
It's hard to say because honestly, I wasn't in love with this episode. I probably liked the stinger at the end the most.
Yes.
It was really silly. It was kind of funny to see Loki actually as living as a frost giant, and being friends with Thor, party friends with Thor, coming to all these planets and basically wrecking them, and destroying their environments and stuff. Yeah, it was interesting. Again, it might be my least favorite episode of the series, but it served its purpose for its ending. So.
Oh yeah, I mean, and there was almost as many appearances in this episode as Deucecast 500, as far as the amount of characters that they're throwing into this particular episode.
Yeah,
Not as many soliloquies as though.
Oh gosh, oh my goodness,
Not nearly as many mime jokes.
Yeah, exactly.
I get to hear all this for the first time tomorrow. So
I know you're. Well, it depends. Dave's in Disney, so I don't know what's happening with the release of the episode. But hey, it's out there on YouTube if you want to watch it.
yeah.
The Margrave. Anything in particular that you got out of this episode, sir?
Yes. I agree a little bit with Garrison. It wasn't my favorite. I mean, I did like a lot of the cameos. I mean, you saw a lot of characters who showed up for the party, I guess, from
Howard the Duck had a pretty big role.
He did.
Howard the Duck.
Darcy and Howard got married.
Huh?
Darcy and Howard got married.
And I'm pretty sure they implied that they had relations.
Do we think that they keep planting these Howard the Duck scenes and bringing Seth Green back? Because we're going to get some real Howard the Duck at some point.
Dude, I
hope so. I really hope so.
It could happen.
What was it today that we saw, Garrison? That they're working on 31 different
projects. Yeah.
Projects.
And someone did a calculation. We have at least 28 of those announced.
Yeah.
So,
wow.
I mean, that's insane.
But I think Howard the Duck could work really well as a cartoon.
Totally.
And that's Seth Green's kind of like his sandbox. So
yeah. I mean, you've got Warner Brothers and you've got Netflix spending $18 billion on content next year alone. So Disney's going to do that too. I mean, they're not going to let Netflix and HBO Max show them up. So we're going to get all this stuff.
I think the only interesting part of it is that Howard the Duck has the tendency to be a little more blue than some of the other Marvel situations. So would Disney, want to, they'd just reel it in, I guess, and tone it down and make it a PG-13. But
yeah. Not that
we get duck boobs in the Howard the Duck movies.
That's right. I mean, they're not afraid of rated R content. I mean, I think Deadpool, I don't know.
Deadpool 3 is going to be rated R. That's already been confirmed.
I figure they're not afraid of it. But now that won't be under the Disney mantle, though. Right. That'll be like 20th Century Studios probably or something.
Probably, but it will be Marvel
They'll insulate it somehow.
Yeah, Marvel
Maybe
Studios.
Maybe they could go like Mardoc or whatever that.
Modoc. Yeah.
Modoc.
That was ridiculous, that show, by the way. I think that was... I saw a couple episodes of it. I think it was out there before the buyout. And so they felt as if they needed to go ahead. Very similar to Hellstrom. I mean,
they've got another one. Hit Monkey is coming out soon.
Yeah.
On Hulu. So
Roth's having some technical difficulties. Apparently, I don't know what all of that means.
By the way, let's give it up for Jacob for all the costume changes during the 500.
Yes, during Deucecast 500.
Yes.
That was an impressive amount of costume changes. Yeah, I mean, like we've all said, there really wasn't much substance to the episode in and of itself. I think that obviously we get some Thor and Jane Foster stuff that was similar to the movie in the sense that they fell in love, at first sight, basically, very similar to the movie. And we're obviously going to get more of that in Thor: Love and Thunder. I mean, that's going to be a big part of that movie. So, it's good. It's good to see both of those characters together like that.
I think I enjoyed some of the fight scenes with Captain Marvel and Thor. Like, surprisingly more so. I don't know. It was just, I don't know if choreograph's the right term because it's animated, but just some of the Rock'em Sock'em Robot smash. Who can knock somebody the furthest, and so that was okay. I mean, it's not consequential, but it was fun.
I don't want to disparage the character of Captain Marvel, but I mean, I'm just not. The more and more I see that character, the less and less I like that character.
She's a party pooper.
She is a party pooper. And I know, and I understand that was, what her place in this episode was to kind of try and reel in Thor. But I don't know. I just,
Hey, they sent the signal. Got to bring down.
Yeah, that's true. They did send the signal.
Oh, there's more things I could tell you about that football game, but I'm not going to go on Roth. So,
he's asking about the football game? Oh,
yeah.
I mean, Nick, was there anything in particular that stood out in this particular episode to you?
I said this to you over text, and I'm going to say it tonight because here's the thing for me with What If, and I say that as a person who sort of hosts an MCU podcast right now.
This is true. Yeah.
Up next, Ant-Man at some point when all of my family can be in the same place at the same time.
School year.
But What If isn't doing it for me. And I've watched the one before this one.
I can agree
didn't
with that.
finish, and I still haven't finished.
Yeah.
This one, this week, I really wasn't going to watch until one, Mikey asked me to be on.
Right.
But also my twins, who are 13, are both equally obsessed with Thor and Loki right now.
Oh, okay.
And so the other day they begged me to watch it with them. So I kind of watched it while I fiddled on my phone. And so I got the gist of it. I didn't go rewatch it for tonight. I just kind of decided I was going to pop in and make the comment, which somebody else made on Twitter last week, and it made me laugh, and is kind of how I felt, which was, I'm so glad Visions is out so I can stop pretending I care about What If. and this is the thing. Like I said, I really do want to like it, and I'm hoping. I was talking to my friend Jerry earlier today over text from the Bombad Cast, and he's all in the tank for What If. He loves it, and he feels like we're heading towards some big, and like y'all were talking about the stinger at the end last week, some sort of tying together, some confluence of all this stuff. And we may get to that point, and I may decide, well, crap, now I need to go back and watch them again and kind of get the vibe. And so this may be a second chance thing for me. But at the moment, when Wednesday shows up, I'm like, oh, yeah, that's today. It's not a priority. It's not like...
Right.
Oh, I sometimes don't watch it that day. I mean, it takes me a couple days.
I really don't have any strong feelings about it other than I want to like it more than I do at the moment.
No, and I feel that totally. I mean, this particular episode, unfortunately, feels like a bit of a break from what they were doing, because the three or four previous episodes really were kind of dark.
Yeah.
And then they throw this in sort of an awkward space between what looks to be another dark episode for 8 and 9.
What was the one last week?
Yeah.
Well, they're collecting, they're creating all these different characters to bring them together as a team, don't you?
Yes. In a way.
The Guardians of the Multiverse, I'm pretty sure.
Something like that.
Something like that.
Okay.
They've had posters at some sort of Hobby Lobby type thing for a while that had a similar title to that. So
really,
yeah.
So all these different variants are going to show up. That's the term.
Yeah. Right. For some reason, the Watcher is going to be threatened by Ultron. I think is going to be the implication. We'll see next week. I think so, or tomorrow.
Oh, Marty Garrison's throwing his shot.
And to be honest, it felt like an out of place moment in this episode to have that serious stinger at the end like that.
But it made me happy because I was like, oh, we're actually moving forward with like the plot of this show.
Well, and that's the first time that they've done that, like set you up for the next episode like that. I mean, really, all the previous episodes have not really been that way.
Let's talk about the stinger, because I was like, uh-oh.
He's just got to step away.
Nick is so put out with What If, he just...
he's just got to step away for a second.
If they're just going to talk about that, I'm out.
I know.
Yeah.
No, but I mean, so I was like, oh, that's Ultron. And then when I went back and saw some video captures of it, I was like, wait a minute.
It's Vision.
He's got the stones in his breastplate, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And he's also should we say spoiler alert? Spoiler alert.
Oh, well, no. I mean, that's what we've always been doing with these episodes. Okay. So
yeah. We talk about the spoiler.
So that was, I may be jumping too far ahead. You guys may still want to talk about some aspects.
I'm not. I don't really care that much about the rest of the episode. Honestly, I like the fact that it was Vision's body because that's what Ultron wanted. So it wasn't Vision. It's Ultron.
Yeah.
It's just Ultron's
Vision's body, right?
It's his ultimate body, basically. And he has all 6 stones now.
That's a bad combo.
Yeah. That's a guy who wants to genocide the Earth, basically.
Pretty much. Yeah. So I'm thinking that 8 and 9 are going to be pretty tied together.
I think so too.
We're going to be dealing with this version of Ultron for the next couple episodes.
I think you're going to get kind of the origin of this Ultron. Like we kind of already know what the next episode title is.
What's it called? What do we?
What if Ultron won?
That's the one.
Yeah.
Interesting.
And then I
hope they have Spader back. They got to have Spader.
No, he's not. He's not coming back.
Yeah. That stinks. It actually does stink because that's a voice acting role. I would love.
Oh, I know. Because
I know. Yeah, it would be awesome to have him back, and because that's a hard voice to imitate as far as the cadence of the voice is concerned, and so it'll be interesting to see
James
what they
Spader.
do. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I mean, so it's a bit difficult. Roth, we're not no derailing Roth.
Listen.
but as you can see, he's ready for the Many Saints of Newark.
I actually freaked out earlier this week when I heard the commercial because I'm rewatching The Sopranos as well, and they ran the trailer.
You don't need to say as well anymore.
Before, before I actually rewatch it once or twice a year, but
there you go.
I was watching it and they're putting the trailer on HBO Max before even the old episodes. They'll drop it in every now and then. And I was just listening kind of as I was doing something else, and it said October 1st, and I went, "Oh my God, that's Friday."
That's Friday. Yeah,
here.
exactly.
I'm so excited.
And we got Marvel coming out this weekend. I'm going to see Venom on Thursday. So
as am I. I'm seeing it Thursday night.
So maybe we'll get some connections to Spider-Man. Who knows?
Unfamiliar.
Earl does not care about the Venom.
Earl, I'm a big not liker of Venom 2018.
Especially, but you still trust they'll still be good.
I've heard this one's better.
I have heard that there's a post-credit scene that I should stay around for, and that is
okay.
That is what I'm going for.
So you're going for the post-credits?
Yes, I'm paying
$10.
Come for the movie, stay for the post-credits.
Yeah, that's sometimes what you go for, right? I mean,
it's only 97 minutes, so it doesn't feel that bad.
Yeah.
Well, that's true. They're just like,
well, I mean,
through it.
Yeah. Unfortunately, this particular episode of What If does not have much to talk about. There was a lot of fun stuff. I mean, for a fan of the MCU, there was a lot of cool moments with different characters and
meeting
a lot
that we've never seen before. That kind of thing.
Exactly. So
I mean, somebody said it earlier. A lot of silly stuff. It was a
fun, it was. It was a very silly episode overall.
So the mom shows up, right? To take him back and
and he's worked with Captain Marvel to make it look like he's actually taking these people.
Tell my mother.
Don't tell. Yeah, all that stuff was.
That's a terrible accent, by the way.
All that's I wasn't going to say anything. I'll let you. Yeah. I mean, it was just a silly episode until that last stinger of Ultron,
which I'm excited for.
Which I'm excited for 8 and 9. I mean,
I agree, Nick. Most of the episodes I have not done it for me. The Doctor Strange episode, some of the earlier episodes, those really do it for me. But I'm excited to just get to the end and see what this finale is all about, because I do feel like there's going to be a team up.
Well, and I think for me, and I love that, and I did like the Doctor Strange one because it felt a little more. I don't know. There was a little bit of a lore Twilight Zone vibe that I liked.
There was some weight to that episode too.
There was definitely some weight, and I think that's what I liked. I liked how heavy it was, and in a similar vein, the ones that I've liked the most have been the T'Challa ones, because I know that he's gone. Like I know that what's his name has died, and so those feel heavier in a different way because it was such a noble character, and I thought he played him so well, and I loved what he did, that those, it was just kind of that haunting feel of like, this is good for, a character or an actor that we don't have anymore.
Yeah, definitely.
His last performances.
Yeah, crazy. Amazing. So let us jump into, I'll say this, the groundbreaking visions. I mean, I think this is big. I think it's big. I mean, for a property that's been around for 40 plus years at this point, to dip their toe into the anime realm. Now, there's certainly been a lot of fan-made anime stuff before. We've seen a lot of that.
Done that. Star Wars did like an official anime thing at one
point. Are you talking about the Galaxies of Adventure?
Yeah.
It was kind of anime style, but I mean, this is the real deal.
And is that? And I don't know anything about anime other than I've heard of it, and I know certain names like, Ghost in the Shell and some of these things that hew towards that style. I think Galaxies of Adventure, would that be more like manga? Is that more of that, or is that a different thing too?
Manga is print. It's comics.
Oh, okay, it's strictly print. Okay,
yeah.
See, I don't know.
No, but that was like an Americanized version of anime. Right. That Galaxies of Adventure,
and they were fun. And what they did was they took all the original movie audio and just cut them into.
It was a lot of fun.
My girls watched them. It was fun.
To a point, Star Wars is kind of an Americanized version of Kurosawa.
That's very true.
Yeah,
and that's a really good lead.
Appropriation of Japanese culture.
Yeah, that's a really good lead into the first episode. The studio that did this one was Kamikaze Doge, which did Batman Ninja, which Batman Ninja was really cool.
Oh yeah,
I saw clips of that.
I could tell they did Batman Ninja because it's the exact same art style, except it's black and white.
Yeah, exactly. This one's called The Duel. It was 14 minutes long. This one, they are following up with a tie-in novel titled
Really?
And the early reviews are that it's phenomenal.
Like,
well, the episode
I'm very
is
much looking forward.
Yes,
very much looking forward to it.
Good episode.
Now, what I don't know if this is a prequel novel, or what. I'm not sure if this is just introducing this character of Ronan, which we then see in the episode as well. I don't know what timeline they're going with. I mean, and timeline seems to be a bit out the window in some of this.
Yeah,
well, except for
a few of them. IMDb
except for the Ninth Jedi. The Ninth Jedi was very time specific. But
yes, and a couple of the other ones I looked up, they kind of indicated there were several of them that were after Revenge of the Sith, kind of post Order 66, like Village Bride is post 66.
Yeah.
There's a couple that are loosely pointed in a direction, a Jedi who's roaming, who is at odds or at loose ends.
And Roth, dude, no, I don't know anything about anime. I mean, I am not. Now, Fetmatic is an anime expert in the chat, but I am far from it. I mean, I've seen the big ones like Akira and Ghost in the Shell and stuff like that, but I am not an anime expert. And
I watched the season 1 of Attack on Titan.
Yeah, I've never even seen that, and that's like a super popular show.
Which is good.
Kind of your basic
Titans.
So a lot going on in this episode, though. A really unique story in the sense that, at least at the beginning of the episode, we think that the character that we're following is a hero. You automatically assume that. This is Star Wars has always been about the hero's journey. So you kind of think
he's a hero.
Well, he's obviously
he has his own motivations.
He has his own motivations. He's had some type of past.
He's not a Jedi.
No. Oh, come on, Fetmatic. Don't sell yourself. I know that you are really knowledgeable of anime, Fetmatic. Don't sell yourself short. So, Garrison, walk us through what we see happening in this village. They mentioned that it's a post-war situation.
Okay, we see kind of the Empire come in,
or whatever. It's like kind of a feudal, a remnant of.
It's a feudal empire, though. It's kind of, it's very feudal Japan looking.
In fact, I think they refer to them as warlords, don't they?
Yeah.
We have a couple of warlords.
I mean, what I gather is that at least in this particular story, is that the Empire is not really, any longer around. These are just like warlords that have survived after the war.
Is this post ROTJ? I guess.
I don't think we can think in those terms necessarily. At least I don't when I'm watching this. Like, I don't try and tie it. Yeah, I don't tie it to anything that's in canon. Like, when I'm watching it, I'm trying to watch it as what is the story they're trying to tell, and let's not tie it to the original trilogy or prequel trilogy or anything like. I mean, Nick, what are your thoughts?
I was looking to see, and I think it varies greatly, and that's the whole point. Is in
each one's different at a different time,
right? In a sense, the whole point is for them to exist outside of the realm of all the other stories that we're used to. We're not supposed to try and fit them in. That being said, there are several that, like you said, Ninth Jedi is like 200 years post Jedi.
Right.
The Jedi have been gone for a long time. It says at the top of the episode. There were a couple that I looked up as I was doing some of this, getting ready, where it is explicitly kind of stated, this takes place after Revenge of the Sith. This takes place after, whatever. But as a general rule, we're supposed to come into it just not attempting to assign it to any certain era or time frame.
Yeah.
Do you think they gave them rules like, okay, every episode needs to have lightsabers and every episode needs to have, I got a bad feeling about this.
No, that's only three. That's only three episodes, or out of the first five. Out of the first five, I haven't. I'm
okay. So maybe I heard it a couple times, thinking, wait a minute.
Well, it's in three different episodes in these first five that we're covering, so it is substantial. You're right.
Yes.
Okay.
I think that owes itself to, and I'll pull out these little tidbits as we go through each episode.
Yeah.
But those in the extras, those featurettes, each one is basically a director's featurette. So they talk to the director from each studio. And these are all like longtime legendary anime people, like 30 years in anime, 30 years doing, and every one of them we made the joke about kind of Star Wars appropriating Japanese and anime culture and some of that kind of stuff, but they all are like, Star Wars is the thing. And I jumped at the chance, like the respect and the honor that they have to get to do a Star Wars project is big. And so for them, like it's paying homage to these things to be able to include a bad feeling, to include sound effects, to add, to throw in, actually in this one, there's some nods to other movies that he explicitly states, like, this is supposed to be like this. This is supposed to be, and we'll get to that in a minute as we go through that episode. So it is there, but I think it's honestly more of like an honor thing than it is like a cheeky, hey, let's see how many references we can get in.
Yeah,
that's how it came across listening to these creators talk.
Yeah, and correct me if I'm wrong, but did we not hear in one of the promotional things that came out that one particular animator made this his last project before retiring, or came out of retirement to do this and was done already or something? I mean, this guy had been doing this anime style animation for,
I'm pretty sure it's the Village Bride guy.
Yeah,
because he talks about literally the note that I made, and we'll get to that. He says a career validation, 30 years of integrity, working in anime and doing all this kind of stuff.
So that's big time. I mean, that's not to be taken lightly. I think that they revere the property and are honored, which I know that's kind of a cliche thing to say in regards to the Japanese. You know, I think honor is a big thing in their culture, and they seriously, some of these guys and gals are very honored to be working in this property. Garrison, what did you have? I saw you wanted to say something.
I just saw earlier someone say on social media that the episode reminded them of Yojimbo a lot, which is another Kurosawa film. And also, if you haven't seen Yojimbo, you can watch A Fistful of Dollars, because
yes, you can.
Sergio Leone,
because the screenplay is adapted.
Really? Just completely.
And Kurosawa was not happy about that. I will tell you.
Yes.
Oh, interesting.
And he's got a quote
one of the things they talk about in this with Kurosawa is the duel is a reflection, homage to what they called his monochromatic period, where he made movies like Yojimbo, Seven Samurai, that had that, monochromatic, minimal color, black and white, that whole vibe. That was a period that he was into, like artists have a blue period or whatever. Sure. And so this episode hews itself towards that. And the guy that directed it, he even said, he was like, I wanted the animation to look hand drawn. I wanted it to be close to, great. And to me, this is one of my favorite episodes because of the visual aspects of it.
Yeah. It's my second.
It's so much black and white with the blue button inside his cuff when he pushes the button to those little touches. And of course the red sabers and some of that stuff, but like the pops of color against all that black and white is just, to me, is really powerful visually.
Oh, no, I totally agree. I mean, it's I think it's the most, well, at least for me, it's the most visually unique in the sense that I had seen enough anime to recognize some of the visual aspects of the next few episodes. I mean, the large eyes, some of the things that you equate anime to.
Well, you get to like a Speed Racer vibe that's a lot more cartoony, a lot more, something like that.
Yeah.
As opposed to this, which is, it's unique in the starkness of it, but it also, the words feudal, when you talk about feudal Japan, it feels bare. It feels, like these movies we watched as kids.
And this studio is no stranger to feudal Japan, as Batman Ninja literally takes place in feudal Japan. They get sent back in time or whatever. It's a really crazy, weird movie. Not everyone will be into it, but
I've only seen YouTube clips of it. I haven't seen the whole thing, but I mean,
it is weird.
It is. It does look weird.
It can't be any worse than the Ninja Turtles 3. Isn't that the one where they go back?
It's bad. It's just weird.
It's just weird. Yeah. I mean,
it's
and a lot
Japanese.
of anime goes there. I mean, a lot of anime is just weird. I mean, it's just kind of that way. That's that particular medium is just kind of weird in some ways.
It's just a different culture.
But I do. Oh yeah, this is a good point. Fetmatic makes, that the whole scenery feels lived in. I mean, very, very much so. And one thing that they do well, which Star Wars has always done well, is they have what feels like a culture that is not technologically advanced, but at the same time is very technologically advanced. Like Tatooine always felt that way to me. I mean, it always just felt like stark, not really, at least the people living there didn't really,
backward of the galaxy.
Exactly. So this felt like that. I mean, and that's obviously the vibe that they were going for. I mean, they're still doing some things that are very backwater, whereas they've got all this technology around them.
Well, it felt very old world Japanese too. I mean, also though. I mean, there was obviously the Star Wars aspects, but then there was certainly that, the whole.
They had like a Treadwell in the episode, didn't they? Like towards the beginning of it or something similar to a Treadwell droid that looked a little bit.
Oh no, they had a lot of little sort of.
If
you look and that was one of the notes that I made was, several. First of all, the troopers that come out of that big troop transport that one plows down the middle of town had a very Phantom Menace vibe when the big droid characters are plowing across Naboo. But those troopers come spilling out, and that had a very Mad Max vibe to it. It was very cannibalized armor. He even says in the featurette, like the goal, he said in the thing, he's like, they're in underwear, bare feet, and like pieces of armor. Like these are, like we said, remnants who have found dead troopers, gathered armor, that kind of stuff. But then I also had to list out that whole group of fighters when the bad guy shows up in that courtyard. And you've got the Trandoshan that eventually gets run through with the umbrella saber. You've got the Death Star droid with the chain gun. You've got I call him Rees, the 3-eye, you've got the deal. One of my favorite was the Doug, which is Sebulba in the robot, flying across and crashing into the thing. And then there's a Tusken at one point that attacks and does the thing.
It's just a very ragtag group hanging out,
but also familiar for us who have watched these movies for so long. Which was
and we often what's really strange about those particular characters that they used, we often don't see them, at least in the Star Wars universe, portrayed as protagonists in any way. I mean, so it was weird to see this group of aliens specifically kind of be our protagonists in the sense that they're trying to protect this village from which, I mean, I guess the Empire they were always anti-alien, for at least in the original trilogy. I mean, that just wasn't their thing. And so it was cool to get to see them sort of work together with these villagers that are a bit helpless. I mean, you've got a little kid basically saying that she's the chief.
Oh yeah, the chief.
And there's certainly some backstory there, and that's what I love about it, is we don't need that backstory. We see one shot of the guy in the bed and we get it. I mean, it clicks. Okay, she's having to say this because he's not well. Obviously, we don't need some huge, massive backstory. So it was really good, concise storytelling elements.
Yeah.
And that's how we got the first Star Wars movie we ever got. We got Episode 4 eventually. We got something in process. We didn't have to get the origin from the beginning. We got the story already going on. A couple of other notes and things that I jotted down, and some of this comes from that featurette. The teapot. The teapot was a very intentional timer and tension building device, and he says that in the featurette about how you want to put a timer on something and it builds the tension. You cut back to it, he's like, I gotta hurry up, fix the droid, and the whistle and the steam of it, like it was very intentionally done to build that tension within what's about to happen. And he wheels down, and honestly that felt very Tony Stark when that little tray came out and all those little missiles took everybody out.
The whistling birds.
Yeah, the whistling birds. But the other two scenes that he talked about that were especially homages were when they're fighting on the log was Revenge of the Sith. That was Anakin and Obi-Wan on Mustafar. And he said, we wanted to do that. We wanted that to be a thing. And then the other one was the waterfall. And the waterfall was his homage to Phantom Menace when they're fighting Maul with the power binders. And there's that point where Maul hits it with his lightsaber. She does that with hers. She does the waterfall. And he was again saying these movies mean so much. These scenes that as he was directing and coming up with what he wanted to do, he was like, I can't not do that. And so those were really intentional choices for him connected to previous movies.
Yeah, and the director was really good. I mean, there were so many like just quick visual cues throughout the episode, like the quick shot of the high heels. That way you immediately know, okay, this is a female Sith. Well, I mean,
and we get multiple high heels throughout this series.
Yes, we do. I guess that's a Japanese thing. I don't know, but or just a way to indicate, maybe the gender of the character. I don't know, but it was her hair reminded me a lot of I can't remember the series, but Afro Samurai. It gave me that Afro Samurai vibe. That animation was very anime as well. I think that
had a Mad Max vibe to me. Wasn't there one of them that had the not quite as big as that, but
yeah. I think Afro Samurai was on Cartoon Network or I
probably Adult Swim.
Adult Swim, yeah. Which I always get the fact confused. I thought Cartoon Network owned Adult Swim, but maybe they don't. I don't know. What
Adult Swim was on Cartoon Network.
It's still on Cartoon Network. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So I dug the reveal. I mean, and we've got 5 of these to go through, so we kind of need to get. But I loved that reveal at the end where he opens up his cloak and he's got multiple Sith kyber crystals in there. So we immediately know that this guy is a Sith hunter, basically.
He's hunting down Siths.
He's hunting down Sith. And there sure are a lot of them in this particular galaxy that we're in, or this particular corner of the galaxy. I mean, usually there's only 2, but apparently he's going through a lot of them. So that's I'm hoping something that they explore in the book. Apparently the first 5 chapters are out there already that you can read.
They put them out today.
Yeah, and I haven't had a chance to look at any of that, but like Nick mentioned, I've heard very good things about the book, and if I can ever get through the 2 most recent High Republic novels, I'll get to this Ronin book because I've got it pre-ordered on Audible, so I'm definitely going to read it. Well, this is a good point too, Roth, and I didn't think about that. I mean, maybe he is old. Yeah, the age in Star Wars is always difficult to determine. So that's a good point. He could have been doing this for a long time.
So is he are we to assume that he's a Sith who's gone Ronin?
Yes.
There you go.
The director that was another thing, and I'm gonna say this 4 more episodes worth in the featurette. One of the things they talked about was having this feel like the Sith are not always necessarily the bad guy. Like they're an adherent to a certain aspect of the Force, a studier of the Sith versus being a Jedi, but some of them are out just to do their own thing. Some of them are out, that may be how they trained, but they aren't necessarily out to dominate the galaxy or have a purely evil intention.
I love that. I mean, I love that. It's almost like a little bit of a Highlander vibe there. There can only be one type thing.
Sure. Well, and I even thought, and this may be not the best comparison, but like there are plenty of people who are Satan worshipers who are normal, nice, good people that go to work and pay their taxes and do their whatever. And because but that doesn't mean that they're like, cutting goats in half every night, and they just
they might not be practicing Satan worship.
Yeah, I think about the episode of Silicon Valley, if you've ever seen Silicon Valley, where they go to the Satan worshipers making ceremony, and at the end they're like, and we've got Chick-fil-A snacks, and like it's this cult that they're like religious people, and this is where they go to church. And so that was kind of the vibe was just because they're a Sith doesn't necessarily mean that they're ill-intentioned.
That's a good point. That's a good point. Well, we can move on to the second episode unless anybody has anything else they wanted to cover on this one. I know Nick probably has a mile of things written down, but this next one
that covers it for that one.
Yeah, this one may be a little bit quicker, at least for me personally, but it's Studio Colorido did this one, and most recently that's the studio known for A Whisker Away, which was a film that came out last year that was fairly popular in anime realms. This one's called Tatooine Rhapsody. Also, it's 13 minutes long. A couple of quick notes that I wrote down on this one. The band reminded me of Blink-182. I mean, that's exactly what they reminded me of. We check a couple of major Star Wars, or at least original trilogy boxes. We get a Wilhelm scream, and then we get the I've got a bad feeling about this. That's the first episode that we hear this in. This one was okay to me. This one certainly had that type of anime that I don't generally seek out, which is the
chibi?
I guess, is that what the style is called? I don't know. I mean,
they're drawn very small, which is typically kind of like what chibis
they look like small, like even
CHIBI. That's usually
Oh, so, chibi, is that what?
Yeah.
So Roth, so some more. Joseph Gordon-Levitt was better in this than
Who is he in The Last Jedi?
He's he was guard in the costume that tattles on them for parking on the beach.
Yes,
Canto Bight.
Canto Bight, yeah.
Really? Oh man, I didn't know that.
Yeah, well, he and Ryan Johnson are big friends, and so
Ryan,
Rick and
Brick.
Ryan was having him in the film. But from what I understand, Joseph Gordon-Levitt loved the fact that he got to voice this episode. It was a fun episode, and this one certainly was more fun, or I guess just more lighthearted than some of the other ones. I liked the inclusion of Boba Fett. That's kind of, in thinking through at least these first 5, that's the only character that we actually get from a film. In the first 5, I'm going to rewatch the latter ones for next week, but the first, so it was cool to see.
Well, we get Jabba,
and we get Jabba.
That also includes Jabba and
Bib Fortuna.
Bib Fortuna, yeah. Oh, man, he's everywhere lately. So this one felt like maybe it was in a specific time period. I'm thinking prequel trilogy era.
I was about to say, prequels for sure.
They look like they're in an arena that racing.
They're in the pod racing.
It's the Boonta Eve pod racing arena.
Yeah, literally, it's the same one.
And correct me if I'm wrong. Do we not see a quick shot of Obi-Wan's house?
Yes, we do. Yes, we do.
I was like,
in that scene when they're playing the song, they're performing for Jabba, the whole whatever, and it's cutting around. You go to Mos Eisley Cantina, and it's Figure and Dan and the modal nodes are watching it on the pad. The little tablet they're watching on is the one like in Phantom Menace when they're watching the pod race with the kind of handle that looks like a bone.
That's awesome.
So we get the Tatooine Cantina, or the Mos Eisley Cantina, and we get the shot of Obi-Wan's hut. Wur's in there. And then there was also the shot of the kids like watching it in the street, and it almost felt like the other little kids that Anakin was friends with. Kitster and what's his name?
On time period placement, though, Boba is clearly older because he sounds just like modern day Tamir Morrison.
Well, and it is Tamir Morrison.
It is Tamir Morrison.
And that was a note that I wrote down was the voice. Of course, we have Joseph Gordon-Levitt. Bobby Moynihan was the Hut bass player.
Really?
If you've ever listened to a Star Wars audiobook, Mark Thompson was the drummer.
Oh, cool.
And then Shelby Young was the robot that played the guitar. And Shelby Young has done a bunch of stuff, including she was Bragg in Bad Batch, and several other Star Wars, voice projects and all that kind of stuff. So it was a good voice cast as far as, kind of connections to Star Wars.
This one was a really good voice cast. I just didn't feel as connected to this particular episode. It's if I'm ranking
lighter,
it's pretty far down.
It's a lighter episode, for
less
sure.
weighty, but you got to have that to sort of offset some of the.
But I think it does the lighter better than What If has, in my opinion.
Oh yeah, no, I totally agree. I mean,
that's good.
Yeah, it really does.
One of my notes was just fun in all capital letters. It's just fun.
So
fun episode.
As far as story elements are concerned, are we to assume that this is a Padawan?
Yes.
Okay. Because the braid, they show the braid.
He had the braid. He had the
Order 66, right? He was escaping.
Yes, he was escaping 66.
Yeah.
Because he has the dream at that other point when he's passed out or whatever, and he can hear them attacking the master and the master saying run. And so then his lightsaber breaks and, turns it into, the microphone. The other note that I wrote down, really, that was it for this one, was one of my favorite Star Wars tropes at this point is found family. And that was a huge thread in this, especially between him and the bass player. You know, he was there for him. They rescued each other. It was a big deal, you know, to stay bonded in that way.
Yeah.
Yeah, I certainly. I think that was I mean, look, and there were a couple of good moments in the episode. I just didn't, you know, I just didn't dig this one as much as
I like Jabba's tail tapping.
I can't remember exactly what he said, but when they're coming up with the idea to go to Jabba and play for one last time or whatever, you know, he says something about the band and they're all.
Well, he wants to be the biggest band in the universe. Do you want to support? He says something like, "Do you want to support us, or do you want to fund us, or something like that?"
That was
you
want to be our first sponsor.
Yeah. But I'm talking about before they go to their friend. There's something he says emotionally, weight wise. I can't remember exactly what it is right now, but I should have wrote.
Oh well, yeah. When they're trying to decide what to do to if they should go try and rescue him or whatever. Yeah. Be our first sponsor. That's what he. Yeah, that's exactly right. Yep.
And the other trivia tidbit was the bass player, the Hutt, his name was Guy. They kept calling him Guy. Yeah. He's named for Geezer Butler, who was the bass player for Ozzy Osbourne and Black Sabbath.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah, they did call him Guy, and I was like, what?
Yeah,
that's where that came from.
I love that.
I gotta do this for Roth. Bobby Moynihan.
Yeah, he wanted it so bad.
Roth was calling that. Yeah, he wanted that. That was pretty good, Earl. I mean, it didn't resonate as much, but
you need like a saxophone underneath you.
Yeah. You need to have. Oh, what's the guy that was the head of the band for so many years? Oh, I can't remember the SNL.
Oh, I know you're talking about. What is his name? It'll come to me in a minute.
Dang it. Yeah, it's one of those names that I should never forget, but I've forgotten it. He had the long hair and anyways. So yeah, I mean, I didn't necessarily have anything in particular to say about this episode, but you know, the animation.
It wasn't my
favorite. The animation style was just not quite something that I dug as much, but I mean, it's still, I mean, I just love that I still am just blown away that they are doing this. I mean, it's really cool. Okay. All right, Roth. I'm trying to read all that, and I'm like, that has nothing to do with. So unless there's any objections, I'll move on to the next one. Next one was done by Trigger Studio. They're
a very big studio.
Very big. Most famous recently for Kill La Kill and Little Witch Academia. Very popular stuff that I have no idea of what it is. But yeah, they've been around. This one's called The Twins. 17 minutes long, so a little
interesting
bit
voice cast.
Interesting voice cast. We get the repeat. So you have a bad feeling about this because the droid said that he had a bad feeling about this. So we get a little bit of that. Really interesting episode. I think that they explore some things that could be somewhat prescient in what's going on in the live action series stuff as far as trying to create a Sith. They created these two.
Rise of Skywalker too.
Yeah. Oh, sure. Which I just mean that they're continuing to explore those themes in the Disney Plus shows of cloning and all of that type of stuff. So I thought that was really unique way to do that. We get a brother and a sister created out of who knows what DNA that they used.
It said the Sith. It said it was Sith DNA.
Sith DNA, but which Sith we don't know. I mean, I guess that doesn't technically matter. But and this kyber crystal that was powering, I'm guessing, some type of laser because that's what they always power.
Laser. Gemini was, or no, what was it called?
Gemini class Star Destroyer, which of course Gemini is the twins in the Zodiac symbol.
Yeah,
very cool. Yeah. Very cool.
I love that. And the design of the ship was cool too. Yeah. I mean, it was immediately like it looked like a twin ship. I mean, it was
except
cool
I kept feeling like I needed a 1/4-inch headphone jack to plug into that circle right there in the middle.
Yes.
It basically is their Death Star though. I mean, they're going around with it to destroy planets basically until he takes the kyber crystal.
At least one of them wants to do that.
But you got to have two Siths to power it.
Yeah,
apparently,
right?
yeah.
Apparently, you do have to, and we've got another situation where you've got a Sith that doesn't necessarily want to control the universe. So that's a theme that we've ongoing.
I thought it was interesting because he was like he wasn't turning to the Republic. He just was like, I don't care about the Republic or the Empire.
Sure.
Right.
And that may have been a part of seeing that vision or whatever.
It was more of a concern for the sister than it was a ruling, a choice of power.
Yeah, I thought that was really interesting because he was conflicted on a front I wasn't expecting.
Yeah, I mean, Roth, I'm with you. Really bizarre, but again, I mean, you've got to think of it from an anime standpoint. They just go all out with anime. They just go crazy with some of the stuff that they show.
Oh, they went crazy.
And I don't know if it's this featurette or if it's another one, but they kind of talk about that, and they basically talk about part of anime as being prone to hyperbole. Like we're going to go as extra as we can because that's a part of the style, whether it's the big eyes like we talked about, whether it's the, I always think about, if you say the word anime, the word association image that pops up in my head is a close-up shot of somebody's face with their teeth gritted and sweat dots like on their face, like we saw in Tatooine
the last
Rhapsody.
episode. Yeah,
like, that to me kind of embodies like the visual, part of the vision. So hyperbole is definitely a part of it. And in this episode, you got tons of like what felt like very expository dialogue. Like they were very talky.
And that was one thing in this particular episode. I think the dubbing was just, it was just a little cringeworthy. I mean, some of it.
I actually
it's
agree.
fine.
And they have two big screen actors doing it, obviously. And they weren't terrible. It's just it was kind of the.
Is this the one with Shamu Lee or whatever his name is?
Not yet.
No, not yet.
This is Neil Patrick Harris.
That's right.
And Alison Brie.
Yeah.
And then Mark Thompson is the third as the stormtrooper that says a couple things.
Man, he got to do all kinds of stuff.
Yeah, he got to do a couple of things, and he's been geeking out about it.
Yeah, that's cool.
As he should
love
be.
That he should.
Shamu Lee. Are you talking about Simu Lee?
Simu Liu.
Yeah, I don't know how to say
but he's
that.
He's in the Ninth Jedi.
Yeah, we'll talk about that one.
I didn't even realize that. Okay.
I didn't know until the credits came up.
Yeah.
My credits kept shrinking, like they were.
Yeah, that's Disney Plus.
Down. I was like,
you've got to scroll over real quick if you want to see the voice cast.
Yeah.
If you watch it on a TV with like a smart device,
this is an old school. This is an old school Deucecast reference right here. Allison.
Oh man, I didn't bring that up, did I?
Does Dave not say that anymore?
No, he hasn't said that. Gosh,
he's a Brie lover.
That's been like almost 2 years. Well, he might have said that in like it's been the Brie love. Yeah, it's been a while.
Yeah, I've cooled a little bit on Brie Larson, so probably some of my Brie loveism has faded some. But
oh gosh,
she can win me back.
Let's talk about the episode a little bit. Just some of the stuff that went on. We've obviously got. Again, we don't need backstory, but we've got a brother who is tired of controlling the universe or creating mass genocide. So he's trying to stop his sister basically from going any further in her plan
because she's going to die. Basically, is what he's seeing.
Yeah,
she's gonna. That Crystal's
he's had that vision of what's going to happen to her.
Yeah. So that's. That was cool.
It was interesting that he had an X-wing. Like he looked. He was very Luke-esque.
Yeah.
Blonde hair and
like young Luke,
but wearing a Han-like outfit, the vest and the black.
Well, that's true. He was
like visually, it was all over the place.
And I guess she was like Leia. Did she have dark hair by the time I know she had the wasp helmet on there for a while, but.
He had like white hair, and
I think hers was blonde.
Hers was blonde. Yeah,
they both had light. Too. You're right.
Yeah, they had lighter hair. But man, she was pretty vicious in general. I mean, she had no qualms about going through with the plan, as far as taking in the power of the Kyber crystal any way she could.
But he kind of knew that. He said that he knew that even if he showed her the vision, that she was just going to be too stubborn.
Right.
Fatmatic, X-Wing and ties living together.
Yeah,
X-Wing and
dogs
ties,
and cats.
living dogs and
We
cats.
all just get along.
Well, that's chaos.
I think this is a Ghostbusters.
Ghostbusters, baby. That's right.
Yeah, that's Ghostbusters reference. Nick, what's some of the notes that you wrote down on this particular episode?
I think we hit most of it. There were some fun, whether they were intentional or not. There was a force pull of a ship, which we get from what's the video game?
I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not a gamer, so I don't do the games.
I'm not either, but I played it not too long ago. But also,
seems like Unleashed probably has that.
Force Unleashed, that's it. Yeah,
Force
Unleashed. There's a pulling the starship out of the sky. Well, and then Rey does it.
Yeah, Rey does it. Yep. Rise of Skywalker.
Rise of Skywalker.
Yep.
Pulling the one that explodes, that whole thing. So that's felt like a little bit of a nod. We have I love the visual of when the Star Destroyer blows up. It had a very Last Jedi feel with the maneuver, the pause, and the light, and it just kind of sits there, the vacuum of space. Imagine that.
That was sharp.
And then I think for me, we did have bad feeling. We also had Punch It when he backs the X-Wing out and was trying to get out of there the first time.
I forgot about that.
But other than that, for me, I love the visual. I love parts of the visual aspects of this. The rows of stormtroopers, like there's something really satisfying about the way they were just drawn symmetrically and kind of a fading deal. The ending shot of the X-Wing crashed on Tatooine with the two suns, like that was cool. Pretty to me.
Yeah.
And then the only other tidbit I found, and they said this in the featurette, was the sound of her lightsabers when she kind of had like the Iron Spider, deal coming out of her back, was a combination of General Grievous and Kylo's lightsaber from the sequel trilogy.
Well, they were very
that kind of raw but multi-saber feel.
Yeah, they were very unstable looking, kind of like Kylo's at times. But then, she had kind of the Grievous thing going on as well. Yeah, that makes total sense.
I like this one more upon a second watch than I did the first time.
Yeah, this one didn't excite me.
The second watch, I liked it much more visually the second time I watched it because I thought they were doing some interesting things. The blue Force lightning is kind of the first time that we've seen blue Force lightning. When she's doing her red Force lightning, or we've seen that, and color was really important to that. In this episode, I mean, they showed the huge split screen with the blue and the red. I mean, it was really cool looking visually.
Can I interrupt? I thought we had seen blue Force lightning.
Palpatine's is more white.
His is
kind of a whitish blue, I guess.
I just mean, I'm sorry. I guess I'm more mean Force lightning from a character that may be kind of your protagonist in this moment. That's not really something that we've ever seen a Jedi use as Force lightning.
He's not turning to the light.
Right. He's not turning to the light.
And if anything, it just mirrors that very traditional blue saber versus red saber.
Lightning. I mean, I didn't think much about it.
Yeah.
And I think that there was even a poster in one of the films, I can't remember if it was Last Jedi or Rise of Skywalker, that had some of that. I want to say it must have been visually, that's something that Rian Johnson would want to portray on a poster, where you see like a halfway, where you've got Kylo Ren and Rey really shown like halfway. What poster was that? I think that was Last Jedi. Really cool poster. But yeah, I like the episode much more visually than I do from storytelling or whatever, because it just goes they just go for it. It's like the lightsaber in the X-Wing with the lightsaber splitting the ship. I mean, they're just going for it from an anime standpoint. They're like going as big as they possibly can.
Yeah.
But that's kind of
then she survives all that.
And she survives all that, right? Exactly, exactly. Yeah.
I mean, they're out in space. I mean, without stuff on. I mean, I was like, well,
yeah, exactly. You got to throw all the things that you know about space out the window. And
he does actually say in the featurette the decision for him to go upside down when the ship flips over for him to cut it in half is so that when he gets to her, in theory, it's supposed to only hit the crystal and not actually cut her in half.
Right.
Wow.
Yeah.
So,
and that was some cool looking stuff. I mean, it just from an animation standpoint, it just looked really cool. So I'm going to move on then to episode 4, which is done by Cinema Citrus. The biggest thing that they're known for is Tokyo Magnitude 8.0. I'm not familiar with the property, obviously, but that's when I looked them up, that seemed to be the biggest thing. This one's called The Village Bride. It's 18 minutes long.
It's a long one.
I loved this episode.
It was the second longest of everything we watched.
Yes, in this this particular episode, this one was much more story
animation a lot.
Oh yeah, I love the animation.
Solid, and the music.
It's the favorite score.
Music was really good.
Song. Yeah, everything in this. The storytelling was the deepest lore, I think, in this particular universe. We get a lot going on this particular planet, and we're exploring the Force in a different way. It really reminded me a lot of Rebels when we get a little bit of taste of how the Lasat uses the Force. They capture the Force in a different way. That theirs is called the Ashla, I think is what they call it, if I'm not mistaken. Yes. And so I like this aspect of the Star Wars universe where you have these different species tapping into the Force in different ways. Some even in more spiritual ways than the Force itself, than the Jedi or the Sith might tap into the Force. I mean,
it's the different cultures of Star Wars.
The Lasats are very spiritual minded, and they tap into Ashla, which is like huge into their culture. And the same thing for this particular, they've got the Magana, which is really, really interesting. And it seems much more spiritually driven as well than some. And I could keep going on. I want to hear more about these Jedi that are going around exploring different cultures. That storytelling device is like, give me more of that now.
Yeah, that was cool.
I loved that concept of explorers in the universe. It's almost like a little bit of a Star Trek thing there, going from place to place, trying to boldly go where no one has gone before, type thing.
Did you get the impression that the helmet guy was a Jedi? I thought he was just a friend of
I don't know that he was a Jedi, but he certainly was.
I think he was a mentor, I would say, at least.
Well,
he think seemed like a scientist, or
I think he was a friend / guide. Yeah, because one of the things that I read was that this is one of the episodes that was projected to be after Order 66, post Return of the Sith, post Revenge of the Sith, and so she was actually a Jedi in exile. She was somebody who was traveling and had this contact and connection and kind of met up. And yes, Roth is right. Ashla was the ancient version of the light side. The dark side was called the Bogan. Ashla and Bogan were the two moons of Tython, which is supposedly where the Force originated. So Ashla is like the most ancient version of the Force on the light side.
Okay, I love that. All right,
but yeah, awesome. I got the impression that she was a Jedi in exile, trying to find her place, trying to be in hiding, and had this contact or friend who says, "Hey, come check." Is for whatever reason she's there with him. Yeah, and he's showing her the power of these people. And and what I loved is kind of, I wrote this down, the nature worship. The Magina was kind of that, like, in touch with the planet, in touch with all of that. Go ahead, Gareth.
I think so that's interesting. I mean, my impression was that this is a guy that was going from planet to planet and would call upon her whenever he found something of interest, because he even joked around with her that he didn't care about her code. And in my, like, here's my fanfic, her code is to not get involved, in whatever situation that he has called her to explore, or if he finds something, like in this case, obviously he's seeing, this daughter step in place of the father, because you've got an antagonist coming in to wreak havoc. And so he's like, okay, well, I'm going to call up my Jedi friend that I know is out there exploring the universe. This is our deal. I'm calling her in now. And, he wants her to throw the code out in this case.
He was clearly trying to push her to help these people.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
And he had a very scientist vibe. You know, when we meet him at the beginning, he's studying something, whether you know, kind of a sociology, you know, studying this group of people on this planet. And like you said, when he sees something, he has somebody in his back pocket that he could get in there to potentially intervene or help or whatever.
Yeah, I mean, again, I mean, all of these directors are just really good storytellers because all you need to see visually is this guy's old, and I think there's an immediate sense that these people know each other and have known each other a long time. Like the scientist and this Jedi, they have a history. He says, "I don't care about your code." He's been out there doing this for a while because the voice actor they chose does a great job of sounding like a little bit older, you know, and they draw that character that way. And so this episode is one that I really hope that we see some more of in season 2. I think that's been announced that they're doing a season 2. It's assumed. I mean, gosh, they've got to continue this stuff. I mean, these stories are really ripe for more episodes, I think.
I mean, they could do a season 2, but I'd rather some of these things just be spun off into their own shows.
Oh, I would like that a lot.
There's one specific episode I'm thinking about, but that's
right. Yeah. No, I'm with you. I'm with you.
But I
think this one, I think this one has that potential as well. You know, this particular Jedi is interesting enough. I think that they could easily do a spin-off show for her character.
Yeah.
Anything else specifically in this episode that we need to mention?
I liked the yellow lightsaber. I like the kind of jagged.
My favorite lightsaber out of everything we've seen is hers.
Yeah.
It's yellow, but it's also very katana-like because it's flat when that angle turns.
Very
samurai, and it has a very katana samurai feel to it. But her lightsaber is definitely my favorite out of all the ones we've seen.
Now, the end of the episode, is she doing like force speed at the end when she cuts the guy's arm off?
Oh, I think that's just another anime style. I think that's just a visual.
Because they don't show it; it immediately happens. Which that happens in like samurai stories too and stuff like that.
But I would say that also feels like the old samurai movies where you know it's a jump cut to. You know, honestly,
and they're both standing there, and then one falls, and
I mean, I won't give too much away, but there's a great scene in Rebels with a favorite Jedi of ours, Obi-Wan, and it's the power of the consistency of minimal movement, and you know, there's something to that that's very specific. So I think that's a great question: is it force speed, or is it really just this was a samurai feel? This was that kind of pseudo ninja vibe.
Because they can't show it in Disney.
Yeah,
but man, I want them so badly to release this score at least digitally.
I think they are.
Man, this score is phenomenal.
I don't. They haven't announced that yet, but I would love at least at the minimum to have this available on Spotify or something to listen to. Because
I thought they announced it today. I thought I saw something flash by on my Facebook.
Well, I need to go do some looking then.
I might be wrong.
Yeah.
I mean, I had just a couple of other notes.
Go ahead. Yeah, definitely. No.
At the beginning, when they're observing the bride and the husband, and they're going up to the stone, and they both put their hands on it, the pull away shot, that stone looks like the Shankara stone from the Temple of Doom.
It does, doesn't it?
Yeah, big with the markings on the side
circles.
of it. That was just a random something. We get frozen blaster bolts in this one, which we also got in the Twins, which is a newer. We kind of got that in Force Awakens. Sequel trilogy.
Kylo.
That was whole awesome. Deal. So we're seeing more of that. We get more high heels. We get the shot of her shoes and it opens. And again, to Garrison's point about force speed, like she went into sport mode before she went to attack. But other than that, the big thing I had in here is this is the one the director Hitoshi Haga is the one who said, this is a 30-year career validation for him.
Golly.
And he even said, he used the phrase integrity, like to him to be able to do this thing. Now, I don't know for sure he's the one that said this was his last thing, but based on those other things he said, it would make perfect sense.
It's interesting. And I totally yeah, it's interesting that a guy that has been doing it for so long sees this as validation of that career, and I wonder if it's because they realize that as much as anime is super popular, it hasn't like broken through totally, right? I mean, at least in the States, and maybe this guy just feels as if that the 30 years of stuff that he's made, that this is the biggest deal to him. I don't know.
And also, Japan is Star Wars crazy.
Yes.
Well,
China is not, but Japan is.
Japan loves it. Yeah.
Oh yeah, Japan is the only, at least in that part of the world, the only time that they had a celebration was in Japan. Over there, they haven't had one in Shanghai, or I mean, it's Japan. They went with
Tokyo,
Japan.
wasn't it?
Yeah, Tokyo. Yeah. But yeah, I absolutely this hooked me immediately because the score was so different than the other episodes, and so it hooked me very quickly.
I'm not trying to move on to the next episode.
No, you're fine.
My pitch was going to be exactly what Roth said. If we do a series out of that episode, I would want to redo that whole thing, but kind of expand upon it a little bit. If I were doing a series,
interesting.
Yeah, don't change up too much, but just expound on some things, that kind of thing.
Well.
The other thing we didn't mention, I didn't recognize the majority of the voice cast, but in this one, Christopher Sean was the husband, and Christopher Sean was Kaz in Star Wars Resistance.
Yep.
One of the main characters for Resistance. So he got a chance to come back and do something else.
That's cool. I mean, I mean, who knows? But behind the scenes, it seems like that cast was done wrong a little bit behind the scenes. But I don't know if that's true or not. But it seemed like that they had some more storytelling that they thought they were getting that they didn't get. But yeah, I mean, this is out of these 5. I mean, this one's a close second to the Duel. I think. I mean, it's like right behind the Duel. I mean, it's tough for this last episode. Yeah, I mean, that's what I'm saying. I mean, it's tough because this last episode, the 5th one, done by Production IG, which is Ghost in the Shell. I mean, that's huge in the anime world.
I'll put this one right above the Duel, actually, for myself.
Oh, wow. Number 4? Oh, okay.
Oh, whoa. Sorry. I thought
oh, no, we are.
No, we have.
No, the Ninth Jedi. Yeah, the Ninth Jedi.
I'm sorry, I'll wait for that one.
Is probably my favorite out of all of them. I mean, just because the potential is there for a spin-off series immediately.
It's probably the cliche answer at this point, but yeah, the Ninth Jedi is my favorite of these so far.
It's my favorite.
And to be honest, it had my favorite character out of these first 5, which is Homan. I love that dude. That tall, whatever he is. That ends up, being I guess a Jedi. He was pretending to be a Sith, but he got called out on it, and he's a Jedi. I so want to see a series of Ethan, Homan, Lakara just going around looking for Jedi. That's the series I want to see. I would absolutely love that. But yeah, this one had so much going on. They say it's after the Jedi are gone. There hasn't been. We're to assume there hasn't been a lightsaber in a very long time. Yeah, you guys start talking. I mean, I could go on and on.
I love the beginning with the harvesting of the kyber crystals, I guess, out of the and the whole way the screen swirled around upside down.
Yeah,
I know they did it again at the end.
I like how mysterious they made Margrave. Because you're kind of like you're kind of wondering, and his mask does not look good. He doesn't look
seems like a bad guy.
So they kind of make
like
you think
summoned all these Jedi to trick them.
You're thinking like, are all these Jedi good, and they need to fight this guy who's like an evil Sith that's gathering them?
Oh, I was getting like a 10 Little Indians vibe, like an Agatha Christie, like we're going to this island and I'm gonna plan to kill all of y'all. That's what I kind of what I was.
I thought they were all gonna get killed off except for that young guy.
And then the girl they kept cutting to. But then the twist, obviously the great twist, where you find out that it's actually a bunch of Sith there that have gathered. And Margrave had foreseen this already, or had intel about this already.
Jacob's got a good.
Oh,
so this is the Simu Liu.
Yes, this is.
This is the one.
Also, Masioka's in this episode.
Oh, Masaoka from
Heroes.
Yeah.
Oh wow.
It's a guy you don't see much anymore. I think he does a lot of voice work now.
Right.
So Nick, I know you're chomping at the bit. Go ahead. What
No,
kind of stuff
just
do you have?
like you said, the score in this one also was really beautiful. This was the one
great.
that had the very traditional Japanese instruments, I think, is this one. But the bike chase where she's on the speeder bike, this was one of the ones the director talked about. That was his thing. That was his homage, was Return of the Jedi and the Leia Luke indoor biker chase, speeder, and like the sounds are the same. Like they use those same sound effects of those speeder bikes, but they spent a lot of time talking about the music in this one and how the music, if you watch that bike chase on mute and then you watch it with the music on, the music creates the speed. Like they did it in a way that like, it tricks your brain into like feeling faster and doing this whole deal. I love the colorless saber, the daughter of the saber maker.
Right.
The sabers were all, he figured out a way to forge the kyber crystals so that they would automatically hew to whoever, so that we get the reveal when all of who we think are Jedi turn them all on and they're all red. Hers is colorless most of the time. But then the other fun thing we get is we get the one guy who his turns purple. And what we know about purple is it's the person who fights with the aggressive style like Mace Windu.
Yep.
And it's the combination of the red and the blue. It's not, they're right on the edge of could they go one way or the other. The other, I guess, tidbit that they talked about in this one in the featurette is this episode was 22 minutes long. It's the long one.
Yeah.
Yep.
And it's because they had all been given a fixed time frame of 10 to 15 minutes, and so they came up with two separate stories. And the studio came back to them and said, what if you got more time? So they combined the two stories to make this episode. So the one story was what if there was somebody who could forge lightsabers but wasn't a Jedi? And then the other story was the Margrave and that thing. And so they were able to combine those two storylines together to make this one bigger episode.
Interesting.
They brought her into that.
So kind of like,
yes,
like Ethan was the protagonist of that one thing, and she was kind of the protagonist of the other.
Correct. Exactly. Yeah, and we got the opportunity to blend those two together.
Because for a little while we thought there was 10 episodes. I think at some point there was that rumor that there was 10 episodes, and it ended up just being 9. So they just combined it. Okay, that makes sense.
That's right.
Yeah, that makes sense.
But they even went back and were able to, create it. They found that out early enough that they could create it to make them, work seamlessly together. Yeah. And then the other thing I wrote down, and of course this is very personal to me in my show, the creator, his last name is Ishikawa. He was talking again about Star Wars and the reverence that he has for Star Wars. And in the featurette, he said, it's like the Bible to me. And Podcast of the Wills, where we treat Star Wars like a sacred text, like it was very much, I was like, this is my whole vibe. Like, I want this guy to come talk to me. He doesn't speak English apparently, but but then again,
you could always bring a translator.
Yeah, that's right. I'll work on that. The other funny part that I wrote was I love the droids on their tea break, sitting there when she's trying to get off planet, and he was like, droids drinking tea. Like that was a
the oil. I guess it was oil.
Hot oil. But yeah, this would be my number 2 behind the duel. I love this episode, and there was so much of it. The aerial temple was cool, and like we talked about it, it was upside down. I love at the end as it closes out, and Earl kind of hinted to this. Essentially, the aerial temple is a lightsaber. Like it turns back over.
They even give us a
beams
sound
coming out, and it gives us the sound effect. So
it gives us that sound effect. That's where
I really enjoyed this episode a lot, and it would certainly be right up there with the duel as a favorite.
Well, and I love that whomever is overseeing all of these episodes is allowing, especially in this one, maybe more than the others, but is allowing species that we maybe not have seen before. Like some of those Sith are certainly, well, first and foremost,
the kind of walrus mustachey looking guy.
First and foremost, it's weird to see a Sith that is an alien. That's just, I mean, we got Maul, I guess, but I mean, that was kind of odd at the time to have a Sith. So
and you have to think about the timeline, because for the timeline that we're most familiar with, it all involves Palpatine.
Yeah.
And this was certainly a Legends thing, but I think it kind of carried forward a little bit. Palpatine was notoriously specious. Like he didn't like aliens. He didn't, so it was, that's why you didn't see aliens in the Empire. They were all, humans, as it were.
Yep.
That makes sense.
Yeah, and so I thought that was cool. We got to see, and like I said, my favorite character out of all is Homan. I want that character in a show, and I think that. Oh well, there we go. Yeah, see, I'm not real well versed on all the old Republic stuff, but I mean, okay. So the original Sith were alien. Okay.
Really? Wow.
Yeah, I'm not real well versed in all of that stuff. My EU was anything that took place after the Thrawn trilogy. That's what my EU. I never did any of the Old Republic stuff. I just never all these people that are obsessed with Revan. I just never.
I'm not there.
I never went there. That just wasn't my Star Wars at the time.
My Legend stuff was the original Thrawn trilogy.
Yeah, and I kept reading beyond that. I mean, so I moved forward in the story where, as a lot of people love the Knights of the Old
Academy
Republic
trilogy.
My EU was the glove of Darth Vader when I read that in elementary
school. Boy, have I got a podcast for you.
Oh man, yeah, dude, wow. Gracious. I think we did good covering these first 5, and so we've got 4 other ones to talk through, and there's some really interesting episodes in these last 4 that we'll definitely be able to talk through next week. Nick, where can people find you on the interwebs?
Absolutely. The easiest place to find me is pretty much all of your social medias. I am at WillsPod. That's Podcast of the Wills. We're also on YouTube. It's youtube.com/Podcast of the Wills. And we are right about halfway through our canon studies series, which we started 3 weeks ago. Mikey was on 2 weeks ago. And we are hewing back to our original version of this podcast, which is Star Wars as a Sacred Text. I have broken Empire Strikes Back into 6 categories or 6 sections. Each one has a theme. Mikey was on for friendship. No. What
it was
we
the next one? Oh gosh.
Friendship was first.
I can't remember. Oh wait.
Yeah. It was great. Discipline was last week. Or this past Sunday.
Retreat.
That was it. Yeah. Retreat. This coming week is going to be Betrayal. We've reached the point where we're headed to Bespin. And my guest this week is going to be Raven Spencer. Raven is one of the hosts of Sisters with Sabers. Well as Force Connect, and she's one of the Bro Axiom crew on Sunday nights. So we're going to talk about Betrayal, Bespin, Lando. But basically what we're doing is we're having Bible study, but instead of the Bible, we're using Star Wars as our sacred text. So it's been a lot of fun. And Sunday night, 8:00. I'd love for people to come and hang out in the live chat.
I'm busy, sadly.
What do you do on Sunday?
Coaches shows.
That's right. You're all into the high school football. I love it.
Yeah.
No,
Mr. Important.
That's right. Garrison, where can the people find you on the interwebs?
You can find me at SUPASH3 on Twitter. You can find me at GRyphon on Letterboxd. You can find me on the Deucecast Discord. I sometimes comment in there, and I guess you could listen to my coaches shows, but go listen to Nick's show instead.
That's right.
I have no idea what we were talking about.
Super specific high school football.
Yeah, that's right. In Brunswick, Georgia, specifically.
Yeah.
Dr. Earl is off the grid. He prefers to stay anonymous. One with being anonymous. Although, from time to time, if you're lucky, you can catch him in the Deucecast Discord. I mean, it's rare.
Lucky.
Yeah. He's got his own channel in there.
Corner.
It's like a jackalope or a chupacabra. Just shows up.
Chupacabra.
Yeah, it's rare that he shows up in there, but he is there. And then, of course, we can be found every Wednesday night for the most part. Again, David is on vacation. I don't know if the episode.
Wow, I thought he was dropping.
I know. I thought so too.
That's a big episode, not to.
Well, hey, guess what? You can find it on YouTube. If for some reason an episode does not drop tomorrow and you are itching to listen to the 500th episode, it is out there on YouTube for sure.
Can I plug one more thing?
Yeah, of course.
Real quick. I totally forgot this. I should have said it.
Yeah. I know what you're
Podathon 2021. Last year there was a podathon. It's Saturday, November 6th. It is a 12-hour Star Wars podcast marathon. Old school Jerry Lewis telethon style.
That's
we
right.
have I'm not in charge of it, but Pete from Around the Galaxy, Scotty from the Bombad Cast. They're going to be 12 different shows. Podcast of the Wheels is going to be one of the shows that day. We're raising money for Make-A-Wish Foundation, and it's going to start at 9:00 in the morning on Saturday, November the 6th, and go until that evening. All the shows that are involved are working really hard to bring in like really big name guests, lots of fun, different things. And so I'll put more stuff out on Twitter as we get closer to it, but we would love for any of your listeners that want to come hang out, pop in, make a donation to Make-A-Wish. It all goes directly to them. It's a great charity and a worthy cause. But we're going to spend the first Saturday in November hanging out and doing 12 hours worth of a wide variety of Star Wars content for, a good reason.
It'll be fun. I'm very much looking forward to all the surprises that I'm sure will be happening that day as far as guests and whatnot. It'll be really cool. As always with YouTube, subscribers are the lifeblood of YouTube. So please share this episode. Get the word out that the Deucecast is not just a podcast, but we also have a YouTube channel that is going to be every Tuesday and soon expanding to every Thursday once Yellowstone hits. Roth that hangs out in the chat is going to be
like falling asleep on us.
Yeah, Earl and Roth are going to be part of the Yellowstone Thursday nights. Earl maybe not every Thursday, but he'll be there as often as he possibly can. Is that right, Earl? As often as you can?
That's correct. I'm here to bring the color commentary on Yellowstone.
The color commentary on Yellowstone.
Whatever that means.
Yeah, we will make it happen. It's always going to be at 9:00. We like to go a little bit later to let all those other folks have their shows earlier in the day But like, subscribe, comment, share, all the fun stuff that really helps a YouTube channel. And we will be back next week with not only episode 8 of What If, but episodes 6 through 9 of Visions. And very much looking forward to talking about it with this crew right here that you're looking at. Thanks so much, everybody, for stopping by, and I hope everybody has a wonderful evening.